Good evening, everyone. I'm Tonight. I just want to go over a new kayak motor that I recently got for my 2019 Hobie Outback. Uh, the company is called Newport Vessel. I'm pretty sure some of you may have heard of them. The specific model of the trolling motor, or I like to say the kayak motor, is called the NK-180S motor. Um, and for this installment of the video, I'm not going to go over too much about the actual setup of the motor itself. I just want to talk about why I chose this motor over any other motor, and I just and on this chart, I put together three motor that I've been looking at. It's the Torqeedo 403A and the AC version, the Bixpy, and the of course this motor, the NK-180S. I don't include any other normal, trolling motor like Rip, or like Minn Kota or Water Snake. And actually, I did put together a Water Snake, but I sold it to my friend. But I think these particular motor are in their own profile, own class, versus the other trolling motor. For one thing, they're really built for kayak. I don't have to do a lot of modification with them. The control is already here. I just plug into a battery, mount that, I'm set to go. I don't have to, take a normal trolling motor. Was built to to be put in the back of some boat, which you sit right there, you control. If I did go with that, then I have to decouple the control, the speed, and run all kinds of cables and just crazy stuff, all the way up here. Or you can go with a Water Snake, drill some hole in your cassette, and cut the shaft, rerun the wire, and put it right here. But yeah, life is all about choices. How much money you have, what do you think is important. Yeah, I'm not really here to compare this to a bunch of other trolling motor, which I can get for cheaper, but this is my choice, and that is what life is all about. So with that, let's take a look at our three selections right here. Most of these trolling motor is going to be running very efficient because they have a higher voltage versus your typical 12 volt. So that's one thing that I consider, because for say a 60 amp hour, 30 amp hour battery, I'm gonna get a whole lot more out of that if I'm running at least a 24 volt and higher versus a 12 volt system. Okay, so and I like to say that Newport didn't pay me to do this. I paid that motor out of my own pocket. I just did this so that I can share with whoever that is looking to either get a Bixpy, Torqeedo, or Newport. And I'm not here to really bash these other companies. They're a great company. Torqeedo is made by German, and how they over-engineer the hell out of their equipment. So yeah, it's just really my personal requirements in terms of what I look for, and it just so happens Newport came out with a product that matches what I'm looking for, and mainly is the cost and the ability that I can bring my own battery that I can use versus being forced to buy their motor and their battery, because without that battery, their motor isn't going to work. And when you buy their battery, you either lock into the size of that battery or the price which you have to pay, which I didn't care for that. Okay, so let's begin. So most of these are numbers I've actually compiled from either manufacturer's website or from other YouTubers, and there's a guy, I forgot his name is Jeff. He's like the salesman, he's regional sales manager or something like that of Torqeedo, and he had a great YouTube video where he compared the Torqeedo and Bixpy and the numbers. So part of this I got that from his video, but the others, I pulled it straight from the manufacturer's website. Okay. So pricing. So I'll be comparing the Torqeedo 403A and the AAC, and the difference really is either you go with the A package, which is the 320 watt battery, or the AC, which is 815 watt bigger battery. Price right here is going to be $1,800 for the 320 watt entry level bottom, of the Torqeedo 403 series, or $2,300 for the 815 watt. That's before taxes, shipping, or whatever. Bixpy, the $1,100 includes the motor and their battery, which is 330 watt. But realistically, you have to buy the adapter, right? So 120 or 130. So which one you buy, you add that. So realistically, it's going to be 1,200-ish range for that battery. And either you mount the adapter onto your rudder system, or if you have a flipper drive type of system like the Hobie Outback, then that other adapter is going to go into the drive shaft. So roughly $1,200 and some change. Okay, the Newport, it only comes with the motor. And when I say it comes with the motor for $800, obviously includes the controller plus the mounting for the motor, which is this metal piece, plus all the cable. And actually they also have a steering cable that comes with it, which it's a foot pedal, right? So you can mount it on here. Now the foot pedal piece doesn't come with it, you have to buy, but the cables, they did ship with it. I chose not to go that route for right now, but that, yeah, $800 will give you all that. Let's take a look at the horsepower and thrust. The Torqeedo is about 1 horsepower and about 33 pound of thrust. The Bixpy, I didn't see the horsepower on there. It's a different type of motor. I don't remember what it was, but I did find that it was around 32 pound of thrust. The Newport is roughly 1.8 horsepower with 60 pounds of thrust. Next, you have the voltage. Torqeedo is going to be probably the most efficient motor out of the three. Obviously, the higher the voltage, the less current is going to draw, more efficient it's going to run. So they came in at 29.6 volt. The Bixpy came in at 25.2 volt, and of course the Newport comes in at 24 volt, which that's the key is with the 24. It's typically pretty standard out there that with you can either buy, it's in the magnitude of 12 volts, right? You can buy two 12 volt running series to get the 24, or you can buy the 24. So that's why it's 24 versus something more proprietary, which is 25.2 or 29.6. And one of the reasons why you can't bring your own battery. Speed. This motor, Torqeedo, is going to have a variable speed. Just kind of like this right here, which I'll show to you in my other video. It's gonna, it doesn't have a fixed speed. It just, all depends on how you turn the controller. Bixpy is fixed. You're gonna have 12 forward and 3 reverse. Newport, obviously I just said is variable, kind of like the Torqeedo. Safety wise, they all have kill switches, meaning it's a magnetic switch here. If you tether this to your PDF, you fall out, it kills the motor. Good thing. IPS. Torqeedo battery, controller, motor, everything is, you can toss that battery in the water, it will float, water resistant. Bixpy the same way. Newport, only the motor and the controller. So that controller is actually waterproof. In the manual they say it's not, but I verified with the manufacturer it is waterproof. I hope they change that. The weight of the motor, I believe the 403 is about 9.7 pounds, the Bixpy 7 pounds, and the Newport is 14 pounds. So that motor, that whole unit right there is about 14 pounds. Range, okay. So the range I picked, and when I look at the the range is really how much draw does the battery does the motor take from the battery, and this this is something that is kind of like getting an MPG out of a car, right? In a lot of forums and comment, I see a lot of people say, "Hey, my motor and my battery can last me 2 or 3 days." Well, guys, to me that doesn't mean anything. That's kind of like saying, my car, I don't have to fill gas for like a month or 2 months. It really doesn't tell me the capability of the system. I don't know how you use it, right? But I figure if I can go over some detailed numbers with you as a baseline, definitive baseline, then based on how you use it, then you can determine yourself which one works better for you. If you're a type out there that runs your motor, constantly, obviously it's not going to last as long. If you're out there, cranking out to the max, it's not going to last as long. If you're out there using it maybe, a handful of time out there, it's going to last you days. So the numbers, Torqeedo, through YouTube video and on their website, they give you a really good breakdown of, based on what speed, and depending on what speed from low to high, how much, you're going to get out of that. Newport did the same thing. Bixpy, I couldn't find a whole lot on other than from a YouTube video that the Torqeedo sales manager Jeff something did, which was pretty good. And one thing about these systems, you have to realize that if I'm going, say, about 20% of the motor's capacity, it might draw something like 1.4 amp. But if I crank that up to the max, it can pull as much as 20 amps. So it's exponential. It's not linear, right? It's kind of like a car. If it takes a lot of gas, a lot of power to go that extra mileage, which if you need to get yourself out of a tough situation, yeah, crank it out, put it in full gear. But your whole full day fishing, you may not want to max that out. You might want to run at, say, 3 miles per hour. But I pick a range of 2 to 2.6 miles per hour, and I think that is kind of like the minimum, so to speak, that the manufacturer kind of put in as an entry level speed. I couldn't find a whole lot again on Bixpy, so I'm going to use 2 to 2.6 miles as a common denominator among all three of them, right? Okay, so with Torqeedo, I converted their 815 watt and 300 watt system into amperage, right? So this is 815 watt at 29.6 volt will give you roughly a 27.5 amp hour battery. And if you go at 2 or 2.6 mile, it's going to give you a range of 62 mile, and it's going to run time 24 hour. Now keep in mind that these are just rough baseline, not rough, but just baseline number. Depending on your kayak type, how heavy it is, tide condition, everything, it's gonna change slightly. But it's not like it's gonna change a whole lot. But this definitely will give you an idea of under this setup, under this range, what you're expecting to get. With their 320 watt battery, 11 amp hour roughly, you're going to get roughly 21.8 miles and 8 hours. So again, with Torqeedo, this is really the only two that you can get based on the battery that they're going to sell to you. Bixpy, again, the lowest speed is you're going to get roughly 15.7 miles and 7.1 hours. Again, going roughly at 2 to 2.6 miles per hour. Now, Newport, because they don't sell you their battery, What they did do is the 31 amp hour that they did provide as an example on their website, which again, if I have to convert this to 24 volt, I'm getting roughly a 744 watts. And they say that you can get, around 39.66 mile or 19 hour and 56 minutes. Okay, and the a reminder is with a lithium battery, this 31 amp hour or even 60 amp hour is really just, you have to take 90% of this because 10% is left that you technically you can't use. So really it's only 90% of the capacity. I'm pretty sure Torqeedo and even Bixpy is kind of like that, even though I don't remember seeing that they base their number based on 90% of their battery. But anyways, with 31 amp hour, it's gonna pull roughly 1.4 amp, and that will give you 39.6 mile or 19 hour 56 minutes, which I think I said already. I threw in a 60 amp hours because that's what I ordered from a Chinese, AliExpress. I'm taking my chance, so wish me luck. But it's a 24 volt 60 amp hour. Okay, so really I just kind of double that. In theory I'll get, it's a 1440 watt system, battery with 24 volts. I'll get probably 80 hours or a little bit more plus 40 hours. So again, that's the beauty, is I bring my own battery. I choose how much I want to pay for it. I can even replace this with a deep cycle, lead acid, cheaper, heavier, not as expensive. But that's the cool thing about this versus this or this, which you're stuck with. Okay, max speed. The max speed portion, I'm only going to include the Torqeedo and the Newport because I didn't find a whole lot for Bixpy. So max speed supposedly on the Torqeedo, you can hit roughly 5.7 mile per hour, and at that speed it's gonna suck in 14.09 amp hour. And with that, based on the 11 amp hour, the smaller battery, you're gonna get 4.9 mile that versus, and you're gonna go for 48 minutes. Now look, difference between lowest and max is lowest you get 21.8 miles, max you're gonna get 4.59. So again, that's an exponential curve, which is why you don't want to go out there and crank these things all the way to the max if you don't have to. And obviously with their bigger battery, you can squeeze 13.4 miles out of that, and a run time of 2 hours and 20 minutes. You go over here again with the max speed. Believe what with the Newport NK-180, roughly you get 5.4 mile, almost the same. But look at the amp draw, is 20 amp hour versus 1409, and that's expected, right? Is because this system is running at 29.6 volts, much more efficient than the 24, right? So that's why you get the higher amp draw. But the 60 amp hour, I'll squeeze my battery. Technically, I can squeeze 15 miles out of that in 2 hours and 40 minutes of runtime. Out of that. Okay. And optimum speed, I didn't put that in there, but the optimum speed is, technically should be around 30 something mile per hour. You're not moving like a turtle, but yet you're not killing the battery life. So 3 miles something is a good range, I say. Okay, so now let's take a look at the battery again, the cost of the battery, right? Now, if you want to buy a separate battery, assuming you already have the package already, Torqeedo is going to charge you for their bigger battery system $900. For the small one, $600. The cool thing of that battery, obviously, is waterproof, and with Torqeedo, you get a GPS system on there that tells you, how much range you have left. It's nice and everything, but definitely not worth for me, not worth the price tag. With the Bixpy, you get theirs, again, my complaint about the Bixpy is they don't have a big battery package, and with a 33 watt system, roughly 12.3 amp hour based on a 25x volt system, voltage, you're going to be paying $579. I say that's kind of pricey for my taste. Then of course the Newport option is bring your own battery to the table. So I just I didn't include any acid battery in here. I went for all lithium ion, and the one I got from AliExpress is 60 amp hour, 24 volt for 520 over there, right? And even though they say it's waterproof, I don't believe that. I think it's water resistant, so I have to be a little bit mindful. I don't get the nice GPS like the Torqeedo, but the difference is it's a bigger battery than the Torqeedo, and for cheaper, right? We'll see about the quality. I mean, I wouldn't put my money that the quality is going to be that great, but let's see how it goes. Next, there's another option you can have is outdoor amp. So outdoor amp sells, it's an American company, but definitely is manufactured over there, but they do warranty that for 2 years. You can have the option of buying two 60 amp hour at 12 volt running series to get the 24, and each of their 60 amp 12 volt battery is going to run you $380 each. So for a pair, you're going to be paying $760 plus of course the motor, right, which is 800. Amp outdoor is supposed to be water resistant as well, but this whole setup, the con is I don't think you can dip it in water and let it float kind of like these two. So that's one setback of that. But again, look at the price. Even with these two, I pay in this case $1,320 roughly for the whole thing. Actually, a little bit less because I had like a discount on my motor. I didn't pay $800. I paid like $720 with some discount through some coupon. But then let's just say you go with the American backed battery, you pay like a few $100 more, $240 more, and you get $1,560. Now that is with a 60 amp system, right? That is versus $2,300 for the 850 watt system. So again, you're paying well under Torqeedo. Even you're not even coming close to their entry level. So as you can see, that's what I love about this. That's what I love about the Newport. So I hope some of these numbers that I went over will kind of help you. Again, if I make any kind of mistake or I overlook something, feel free to drop me a comment and I can look that up. But I did crunch the number, and really it just came out to that with the $800 for motor control, and my battery can go as far as a couple $100 for a couple deep acid base battery, which is I go to Walmart right now and buy maybe 100 amp hour acid battery, weighs like over 40 pound, buy two of them, be over 80 pound. It's cheap, and if that's what my preference is, and that's all I can afford, great. If I want to go with some high end, say 200 amp hour 24 volt, over $1,000 lithium ion, I can do that as well. Can I do that with Torqeedo and Bixpy? No. And I actually contact Bixpy. Hey, can you guys, come out with a bigger battery, because again, for my requirement, I don't want to be limited to just this. And if I have to buy extra battery, I'm gonna have to pay $579 for it, which I don't think is worth it. So looking back at this whole thing, I mean, after you look at all the numbers, again, for me, that is why I made my choice. And again, there's gonna be people out there. Hey, Duan, you can buy a cheap $100 motor, and it would do the same thing. Then I'm gonna ask these guys, well, look at your car. I mean, if why are you paying so much money for the car you're driving? You can always buy something cheaper. Again, guys, life is about choices, and this is the particularly the motor that I like, not your your traditional boat trolling motor. Nothing wrong with that. Again, it's every man to his own. And again, nothing to Torqeedo or Bixpy. I'm not here to put them down, but I feel that their business model of forcing people to buy their battery, which isn't cheap, and versus what you get, doesn't quite work for me. So that's my view on this. So on the next video, I'll go over my a little bit more about the motor and the setup. But for this video, I just want to share with you in terms of my decision-making process of why NH180 was my selection. And one caveat, okay, Newport is not off the hook because this is their first year. They just came out with this motor December 20, and everything looks great on paper, but let's just see within a year or 2 year or 3 year how well this motor withstands the the use of it, especially in saltwater. I do a lot of inshore fishing, so we'll see how it stands. So stand up to that environment and the quality. I do have a concern that this is the first year design, and obviously any first year design you're probably gonna have a lot of issues with that, but I needed a trolling motor. This one works, so I am one of the, I guess, many guinea pig that we'll find out, but so far on paper it works out pretty well. Okay, thank you and have a good evening.